Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bable Jonathan. The president of the Cameroon Employers Union, GCAM, Celestin Tawamba, says private companies in the Republic of Cameroon have been recording an annual loss of hundreds of billions of francs CFA provoked by the 5-year-long Anglophone crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. He was speaking today during a meeting between the private sector and the Prime Minister of the Republic of Cameroon, Chief Dr. Joseph John Goute, here in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. And during that meeting, the Prime Minister called on the private sector to take up their responsibility to show proof of social responsibility by contributing to the sustainable development of the regions economically stricken, the northwest and southwest regions. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this edition of the news. We start with issues concerning the crisis-stricken northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon and the situation over there that has provoked a situation of economic disaster is still going on, and facts and figures streaming into our newsroom indicate a worsening situation with a new twist, bringing in the increasing use of explosive devices in those regions, explosive devices that have been exploding and maiming, destroying and killing persons in those two regions of the country. And analyzing the new twist of the Anglophone crisis, political analysts are expressing convergent and divergent views. Dr. Ita Ewane, political scientist, professor of political science and international relations in the Karlshochschule University in Germany, thinks that the new twist is simply an indication that the situation is worsening, and according to him, this is because of poor management, poor response by the government of the Republic of Cameroon. On his part, the professor of political science, former member of Cameroon government, I'm talking about Elvis Ngole, indicates that it is a worsening situation which is being attributed to secessionists who are committing what he qualifies as war crimes, and he condemns the use of explosive devices in those two regions. Listen to them in this report compiled by Innocent Aze.
The time when government officials say calm has returned in the Anglophone regions, with the call on the populations to go on with their activities normally, even on ghost town days declared by separatists, use of improvised explosive devices to attack enemies becomes rampant. Latest is discovery of 2 locally made bombs planted at the entrance of the Kumba main market and at a filling station still in Kumba in the southwest region. This comes to add to the ones discovered and detonated in localities in the northwest region and Ekok. This new form of attack has a message.
It's an indication that the conflict is intensifying. So what we are experiencing right now, it's the changing nature of the conflict in Cameroon. And if care is not taken with the 2 explosive devices discovered in Kumba, if care is not taken, this conflict will soon be urbanized. So we will see such explosive devices in other places. And explosive devices endanger lives of both civilians, Ambazonian fighters, and those of the soldiers of the Republic of Cameroon.
The Biya regime and its supporters instead work on the blame and use of force path.
What makes secession worse is that those who carry secession out engage in gruesome, barbaric methods of using weapons of mass destruction, bombs, be they artisanal or fabricated in industry. The use of bombs to kill people amounts to an act of mass destruction. That is an act which is against international law, human rights. It is against humanitarian law, and it's against the decency and the humanity of people. And those who are engaging in these sort of acts of using bombs or artisanal bombs or whatever bombs expose themselves to being prosecuted for crimes against humanity.
A point of view which irritates worms in the belly, as Dr. Eta Ewane schools Professor Elvis Ngole more on crimes against humanity.
He fails to mention that the burning down of villages is the worst type of war crime. The burning down of hospitals, the mass assassination of civilian populations by members of the armed forces. This constitutes essential elements of our war crimes. War crimes are being committed in Cameroon, but he should be honest enough to tell us that the crimes are committed both by the Ambazonian fighters and by members of the Cameroonian armed forces. And so if we want to talk about this, we need to make an honest assessment.
He tells the government of Cameroon to find adequate measures to end the worsening armed conflict and to refrain from implicating innocent civilians in a crossfire web.
The population is caught into a difficult trap. If you collaborate with the armed forces, you are in trouble with the Ambazonian fighters. If you collaborate with the Ambazonians, you are in trouble with the soldiers.
Those were professors, the professor of political science, that is Professor Elvis Ngole, and Dr. Eta Ewane, who is also a professor of political science, speaking there in that report compiled by Innocent Aze. And the president of the Cameroon Employers Union, JICAM, Celestin Tawamba, says companies are recording an annual loss of hundreds of billions of francs CFA as a result of the socio-political and security tensions in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. He was speaking today during a meeting between the private sector and the Prime Minister of the Republic, Chief Dr. Joseph John Gotti, here in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, and Central. At the central stage of that meeting was the situation in the northwest and the southwest regions with regards to the impact of the crisis on the economy, and the crisis which provoked a situation of economic disaster in those two regions. And they were discussing how to revive the economy of those two regions and the rest of the country, for the situation affects not only the northwest and the southwest regions but the rest of the country. And Celestin Tawamba said that millions of francs CFA are going into thin air as a result of the situation in the northwest and southwest regions, while the Prime Minister is calling on companies to contribute in the reconstruction process. Now take a listen to Celestin Tawamba, president of the Cameroon Employers Union, JICAM, and the president of the Chamber of Commerce, Christophe Ekeng, and the Prime Minister, Chief Dr. Joseph John Gotti.
Hundreds of millions of francs CFA are lost in business annually. Untold loss in economic exploitation have been recorded.
What we say in the private sector, say where you have peace, you will have development. You cannot have business without peace. When we have peace in the northwest southwest, the business people will go there without any problem. So we are happy to help the Prime Minister, head of government, in that way.
J'en appelle donc à la responsabilité sociale des entreprises que vous dirigez.
I call for the social responsibility of your companies.
À contribuer au développement durable des régions sinistrées.
That should be seen in your commitment in contributing to the sustainable development of the regions affected by economic disaster by working closely with local communities in a citizen approach. This will boost present and future investments in these regions.
Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph John Gotti, the president of the Chamber of Commerce, and the president of JICAM, speaking in that extract. And now we take you to Kumba in the Meme Division, southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, added to the crisis-stricken and the difficult economic situation in which the two Anglophone regions are today is the problem of inadequate electric energy supply in the town of Kumba. Details in this report by Immaculate Fogwe.
Imperishable products in some parts of Kumba in the Memed division are now experiencing hard times due to inadequate energy supply in the town. The situation further complicates their living conditions as they are already affected by the over 4-year-old armed conflict. In order to keep up with sales, retailers are now forced to use generators, a situation which has caused the price of fish and other perishable items to triple.
Which we have to spend more. We have to put in fuel. The expenses becomes much when there's no light. And then, like maybe when the generator goes bad, we have to lose a lot in the fish. Most of them go bad.
The voltage surges in some areas has led to the destruction of several electrical appliances.
I'm also appealing to my colleagues for the technical field to be honest, because inside the field, the key of the field is the honesty. At times we face difficulties like voltage, we give the advice to the customer that it's low voltage than to condemn the fridge or to say this is bad, which is low voltage, because most of the customers, they are ignorant, they are novice. So we are the technician, we are the ones to educate them, to well educate them, to assure them that the voltage is a problem, but the apparatus is good. But
according to locals, the absence of electricity has further worsened the security situation of the area. Kumba inhabitants are pleading on the competent authorities to remedy their situation.
In the report coming up next, Smanjikan Gabriel shows us the bad state of the Babaju-Bamenda Road, notably the road from Matazam getting into the town of Bamenda. The Akum area of that stretch of road has been in a very deplorable state in the past days, and vehicles have been finding it quite difficult to circulate around that area, especially after rainfall. Details in this report.
What is wrong? A road user blocked at the Mile 8 Akum Road in Santa Subdivision, Northwest Region, asked for a free donation for the accusation of dry blocks to look for a means out of the poor state of road in Akum.
4,000 contribution for dry blocks so that we can break on this place and get out of here before the rain comes. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a voluntary work. As you are all standing and looking at me, I'm expecting you to put your hands deep in your pockets and do something. Otherwise, the rains will meet us here and we'll pass a second night here.
It was another difficult day for road users entering and leaving Bamenda. A downpour that the town witnessed Friday breaking Saturday made the Mile 8 Akum Road in Santa Subdivision inaccessible by vehicles and those traveling.
We've been facing the same problem 1, 2, 3 years. We cannot leave Bamenda by 4, and at this moment we are still here. It is impossible. It's like there is something hiding behind the scene, because this number of people, we are about 2,000, and here we have about 10 buses that left Bamenda, and more than that are still behind. I don't think the people that are going to the hospital with health problem can sustain this. We don't think people that have corpses that have been standing on the way can sustain such a disgrace.
Some vehicles were stuck in mud. For several hours, commuters were forced to go through unbearable pains since the road was muddy and slippery. Many who had appointments also missed them.
I can have this appointment like this. I'm going on occasion. So I don't know. It's not been showing that they'll finish the road. So we have to carry our luggage and cross to. I don't know where I'm going.
Mile 8 Akum Road is part of the Bamenda Babaju Road, and it has been in this state whenever it rains. Funny enough, no authority has passed to see the suffering of the road users.
The worst part of this crisis here is the fact that we don't even see any administrative authority nor the contracting authority passing here. This situation has been like this for the past 2 weeks. Whenever it rains here, no vehicle can climb. Descending is also risky. We need to see somebody to talk to. Who do you talk to? We see nobody from the northwest. We see nobody from Babaju, Bamenda 1 or Mezam, SEO. Nobody is appearing to say something.
Reconstruction work on this stretch of roads were launched in May 2017, but since then, the construction has been on a snail pace.
And after the meeting with economic stakeholders of the private sector here in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, the Prime Minister and Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph John Gute, took off for the southwest region of the country, and he arrived at the town of Boya earlier this evening. And a reporter, Derek Jato, says that the Prime Minister is in the town of Boya, according to some sources, ahead of the official destruction of guns and ammunitions collected from separatist fighters defeated on the battlefield, and those who actually dropped their guns and were integrated into the disarmament, demobilization and reintegration centers or center in that part of the country. Derijato.
The Cameroon Prime Minister and Head of Government just arrived Boya. Sources say Chief Dr. Joseph John Gute is in this southwest regional capital ahead of the Wednesday, May 19, 2021 official destruction of arms that were in the hands of separatist fighters. From when armed groups were created some over 4 years ago, the rhythm of what used to be peaceful protest changed entirely and things graduated into an armed conflict. The government, through President Paul Biya, called for these individuals to lay down their arms, a call that yielded some fruit, no doubt. And the creation of disarmament centers was a plus, as more people dropped their weapons to embrace the government option. And some who were hesitant, the government took its responsibility for the nation's integrity.
Nous venons de démanteler un campement en bas.
And the arms were seized. Today, the Cameroon Prime Minister and Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph John Gute, is here to supervise the destruction of these weapons. Weapons, sources say some are sophisticated. The Cameroon PM will certainly meet with security bosses of the southwest region, and it is expected that the head of government, among other things, will be briefed on this. The separatist fighters who came out on the street of Munya in Boya subdivision less than 1 week ago in broad daylight blocked the road and firing guns. Expectations are therefore high as the region await the message from the head of state through his head of government. The Cameroon government on many occasions has invited elite, religious and traditional rulers to make their children see reasons to drop their arms and embrace peace for a better nation, their nation.
The Rijato reporting there from the southwest regional chief town, Boya. And I told you earlier that before the Prime Minister arrived Boya, he was here in Douala and he held talks with economic stakeholders of the private sector in view of finding strategies, finding the best way to sort out the problems provoked by the security tensions in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon, the crisis that provoked a situation of economic disaster in those two regions, a situation which is not affecting only those two regions, but is affecting the rest of the country. And as indicated by the president of the Cameroon Employers Union, Jicam Celestin Tawamba, companies in those two regions and in the other 8 regions globally record an annual loss of hundreds of billions of francs CFA as a result of the security tensions in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. And the Prime Minister, Chief Dr. Joseph John Gute, was urging the economic stakeholders of the private sector to show proof of social responsibility by contributing to government's efforts to restore economic normalcy as well as social normalcy in those two regions through the reconstruction plan of the President of the Republic, Paul Biya. Now we come back to that meeting between the Prime Minister, Chief Dr. Joseph John Gute, and the private sector here in Douala in greater details with Fomi Armstrong Sanda.
After the rejection of the Jean de Dieu Momo option by the Cameroon Employers in Business Association, JICAM, Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph John Gute accepted to come to Douala himself to present the presidential plan for the reconstruction and development of the northwest and southwest regions and to listen to the worries of the private sector vis-a-vis. A visit marking the first from a sitting prime minister in Cameroon since the creation of GCAM in 1957. Speaking on behalf of the private sector and considering recent reports of misappropriation of state funds, GCAM President Celestin Tawamba said the private sector needs assurances that their financial contribution to the PPRD will not be mismanaged. He says the private sector also wants the relaxation of fiscal policies and a frank collaboration from the government of Cameroon to be able to contribute to the return of economic normalcy to the northwest and southwest regions. The Cameroon Employers and Business Association, according to him, does not want to be a spectator but a full player in the presidential plan for the reconstruction and development of the northwest and southwest regions. Responding to their worries, the Prime Minister, Chief Dr. Joseph John Goute, categorically assured GCAM that government will not intervene in the money collected by the private sector for the reconstruction and development of the northwest and southwest regions. He was clear that the private sector will have a free hand in the management of all its resources mobilized for the return of normalcy in the Anglophone regions. The Prime Minister moves further to state that his government remains committed to the peaceful resolution of the Anglophone crisis and says dialogue is and remains their priority modus operandi. The presidential plan for the reconstruction and development of the northwest and southwest regions national coordinator, Minister Paul Tasson, while presenting the plan to the private sector stakeholders, said 10.4 billion francs CFA has been gotten for the plan out of the 89 billion francs CFA envisaged. He went further to state that 3.5 billion francs CFA has been used already out of the 10.4 billion francs CFA collected into its account. Paul Tasson, however, said he will not give details on how or what the 3.5 billion francs CFA has been used for now, and went further to say that not every detail will be given to the public instantly as they proceed with the presidential plan for the reconstruction and development of the northwest and southwest regions.
Now we're talking to Makinene in the Mam Aninubu division of the Central Region of the Republic of Cameroon, where underdevelopment challenges making life quite difficult for the inhabitants of that part of the country. Poor electric energy supply, poor potable water supply. These are some of the challenges faced by the people of Makinene in the Central Region of the country. Details with Charles Ekome.
The risk of electrocution at the Carrier neighborhood in Makinene is a serious problem. The population of this locality in the Bam and Inubu division of the Central Region expressed worries and concern over falling electric poles and cables littered all over the area. We don't understand why Eneo Cameroon has just forgotten our subdivision, whereas we have a lot of electricity problems. These falling electric poles have been here since 2016. Some of these poles even destroyed homes. An electric pole is supposed to stay for at least 10 years before being changed, but no change has been done. Moreover, the people of Makinene continue to go for days and weeks without adequate power supply. At first, we used to spend more than 3 weeks in complete darkness before a team from the Eneo Electricity Company was deployed on the field. But even after all the work they did, we still continue to suffer power failure, most often from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. daily. At one point, we even decided to protest on the issue. Traders in the locality also expressed their discontent with the condition. We, the traders of Makenene, are pleading with the government to install a bigger transformer in the locality. Difficult access to potable water is yet another problem in Makenene, as inhabitants are obliged to fetch and consume doubtful quality of water from streams and wells. Water is so rare in my neighborhood. We have just one public tap which barely produces qualitative water. We are forced to drink water from wells and rivers. With the rehabilitation of National Road number 4, the population was hoping this would pave the way for more development in the locality. Some inhabitants have even called on the elites to come to their aid. All these disturbing conditions faced by the inhabitants of Makenene may take time for this locality in the central region to hop onto the train of development.
Mandela Center International expresses its total indignation against what it qualifies as unfair conviction of journalist Paul Shuter to 23 months imprisonment in a defamation trial against the writer Calix Beyala, and of course a fine of 160,000 francs CFA and 2 million francs CFA as damages was also slammed on him. And of course this is coming after 24 months of detention, and this is what Mandela Center International is condemning and indicating that the verdict of the Yaoundé Court of First Instance is in violation of the rights of the journalist Paul Shuter. We shall be coming back to a declaration of the executive director of Mandela Center International in subsequent news editions. Talking Point is up next. Thank you for joining us in Talking Points. Today we are receiving an entrepreneur, a politician, member of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, CRM political party, Akumanga Jaspal. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Babila. It's a pleasure, and greetings to all televiewers. And I think we need to enlighten some issues in the country that are very, very primordial.
Of course, and one of them is, of course, the Anglophone crisis and the impact on the economy of the country as a whole, and on the private sector in particular, with the president of GICAM, the Cameroon Employers Union, indicating that companies have been recording a global annual loss of hundreds of billions of francs because of that crisis. As an entrepreneur, what's your reading of this?
Yeah, Babila Jonathan, it's really a pleasure talking on this entrepreneur issue, because we need to really enlighten some issues at our sector, like seriously. If you look at the Douala Seaport today, because let's go to a case study, you come to discover that a lot of companies have locked up. And I will just give an example, you get it. The road leading to, Direction de Douane, we used to have a lot of companies there, let me not give names. And most of these companies have been locked up, reason being they cannot withstand again. And if there's anybody that think that the Anglophone crisis had to do only with the 2 Anglophone regions, then that person should be beaten beside the bush, because like seriously we are being affected, reason being we don't have flow of cash, and with the COVID-19 stuff that came in again, and and before COVID-19 we had an issue of the barrel of petrol, of which it was like up and down at a certain moment. A lot of workers lose their employment and decided to join us at the private sector. But looking at the state of things, the government actually is not even helping, reason being one way of helping some of these entrepreneurs is like, reducing their tax, and I'm talking of their patterns, they impose, etc. By so doing, it will help. But as days goes on, we discover that you have more and more taxes that they do add with what was already in place. And with that, you know, the citizen is not really comfortable, you know, in the business line.
In the northwest and southwest regions in particular, where the situation has been unstable for close to 5 years, the socio-economic environment has been unstable for close to 5 years today, there are several companies, especially giant companies, that have seriously been impacted or affected adversely by this crisis. The president of GICAM and even other stakeholders who took part at the meeting today with the Prime Minister highlighted notably companies like the CDC, highlighted other giant companies, and even palm oil in the southwest region, and other companies, the production of rice, the production of oil, the production of cocoa, that have significantly dropped as a result of that crisis.
I will avoid that we should be actually accusing crises at a certain moment, but looking at the involvement of government, because crisis had to do with, you know, with, as I earlier said, tax. If actually the government knows that there is crisis in place, one thing to make it a bit easier for some of these enterprises is, you know, drop down the tax level. Why not even ask them to pay 50% because of what they are facing? Because you have the separatists in place whereby most of the people are not cannot operate their operations, their companies and enterprises like seriously. I myself, I got an enterprise there in Northwest, and like seriously, it was very, very difficult. 2 years behind, we had to, like, you know, take it to is it Yaoundé, the headquarters to Yaoundé,
to move the company from the northwest to
Yaoundé, and probably being new in Yaoundé, but like seriously knowing very well that the headquarters is still in northwest, because presently we are struggling to change, you know, the documents to like move the headquarters completely from northwest to you know, Yaoundé. Anyone who sees your purchase order and seeing that the headquarters is from northwest, like seriously, he is a bit skeptical giving you the contract, knowing what we have there as the crisis and the dangers on ground. So you see that if actually at my level I can meet this on the way, and then imagine other people who are based there and actually operating there, their day-to-day activities, entrepreneurs. I have an uncle, sorry, not calling his name. He's really getting hurt because he's a contractor. You know, in order to pick a contract today, there are a lot of conditions being put in place. It's either you do this before you got that, if not, it won't be possible. And he can tell you of the way he have been receiving calls here and there. But the worst of it is, at the beginning of the year, the government will not stay going down to collect what belongs to them in the name of tax. What we ask the government at this particular moment is to, you know, knowing very well that the economic of the country lies in most of these private sectors. Just imagine, for instance, today, if Dangote had to lock off because of the crisis in our country, how many Cameroonians will be found on the street?
And the many companies who have seen their vehicles burnt down in some parts of the southwest region.
Yeah, you got this issue whereby they will threaten you, and you know, it is even under, we can't control it again. You don't even know who is who at this particular moment. When you go open, especially with the lockdown system, how I have been like asking this question up to date, Babila Jonathan, how possible that, you know, individuals who take the country hosted and the government in place is very comfortable. Whatever the Prime Minister says, I'm impressed, because he is like turning to look at the private sectors, but like seriously, in reality, there is nothing or no procedure or no system put in place by the government to guarantee we in the private sector that we can move on. And you know, if they ask you to open on Monday, which of the guarantee have they put in place that if your shop or your business site, your enterprise is being burned, they will come in? And knowing the system of insurance we have, that will come after a year. I have a case whereby insurance had to intervene after a year, and they didn't give me up to, you know, 1/3 of what I spent in that business line. So knowing very well that even if the insurance had to come in, it takes years. The question now is, how are you going to meet up with your day-to-day activities, your family engagement, etc., and your bank engagement within this period? Because you know, we are creditors to bank, we business, we entrepreneurs.
The government authorities will tell you that they have not been sleeping. They have been working day and night to restore normalcy in those two regions, and also to revamp the economy of those two regions and the rest of the country. And some of the authorities in the southwest region in particular went to war against the Operation Ghost Town that you were mentioning earlier, forcing traders, forcing business persons to work, to be in their business sites on Mondays, on ghost towns, shutting down their shops, asking some of them to pay for the shops to be reopened, and things like that.
Yeah, recently we got the mayor of the southwest region, that should be Boye, right, who went in fee imposing people to open. The question here is this, like seriously, you have your family, you have the life of your family, you have your business. Meaning, if you disobey the separatists in place, you have the price to pay. And now, as I earlier said, there is no guarantee, knowing very well that even the militaries, okay, let me take a case like what happened in Sotnwa Mananti. I'm talking of one of the actualities some days behind. That should be 2 weeks behind. That is a businessman who owns, you know, a snack there at Mananti and actually operating his business. Guys were shot in to death, and you know, there was a lot of massacre. And I have one young man, my younger one, who received 2 bullets. And today, what has the government done? If you call these guys, I would like bear with you. If you like, we can get to them on air. If you call these guys and ask what has the government done up to date, like seriously, the government is just very okay about it.
And after that incident, that was practically all about the business that was going on there. Now there is reconstruction also that the government is doing everything possible to push that through, to make sure that the reconstruction and development of the two English-speaking regions come to reality. And the Prime Minister today was calling on companies to show proof of social responsibilities by contributing for the reconstruction of those regions affected by the crisis and economic disaster.
Yeah, asking entrepreneurs to contribute and companies, etc. You get it. You need to make life easy for the company life in order to contribute for the, you know, for the improvement and the reconstruction of the country. That's true for sure. But now, what has the government done so far in order to encourage we traders, in order to, you know, because we need to contribute out of our profit. You don't contribute out of your capital, right? And now for the fact that you're not making profit, places are locked down. I doubt who is going to contribute for such a construction. But it is a good deal, like seriously, Babila Jonathan. If you move, for instance, to Southwest today, I have a friend who is equally an entrepreneur there. He called me today asking me to come over and pick some items from his enterprise that he wanted locked up. And the question was like, guy, what's wrong? He said he's having bankrupt. You and I, we know one of the reasons why
he's gone bankrupt.
You have to go up to that level. Reason being, you cannot meet up with your financial obligations, and you have workers, you have logistics, etc. So like seriously coming now with this giant project, asking that they should contribute it again. Is it possible if you can't even meet up with your day-to-day activities? So for me, the government should work hard, and one thing we need to do is to, go out of this crisis for once and for all.
Government should find lasting solutions to the crisis so that normalcy and peace can return. And the president of the Chamber of Commerce, Christopher King, said no business can go on if there is no peace. Peace has to return. Akumanga Jaspal, entrepreneur, member of the CRM political party, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, Babila, and at the level of our party, I think we are struggling to restructure. If and only the government is ready to work hand in gloves with us, I think in the days ahead there will be a change.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Equinoxe is up next.